everyone, welcome to our fifth From the Shack barbecue show, and we hope you're all doing okay. Now, Elky, how are you since your encounter with COVID?
Yeah, I'm much better now, thanks. I got a bit ahead of myself in the last show, didn't I? After my wife tested positive and I was negative, and I said Stella was keeping it at bay. No, absolute nonsense. I lost my sense of taste and smell so badly that I made a video where I chewed on an onion, gargled fish sauce, pretty grim stuff. But then the following day, it hit me really hard and it wiped me out for a couple of weeks. So much so that I didn't cook outdoors for about 16 days, which was devastating. But I'm back in the game now and it's fantastic to be back. So anyway, enough about me. Now let's take a look at what's coming up in today's show.
Coming up, Elky's cooking a pork leg joint and he'll reveal how you can achieve perfect crackling every time. We find out about the South African outdoor cooking scene with Braai specialist Phil Cather from In This House We Braai. Neal creates a true winter warmer with a new spin on a traditional sausage stew, and we welcome back one of our most popular features, What's Cooking? Lots coming up in the show. Now, Elky, during January, you created some amazing fish dishes and posted some great photographs on Instagram. What are you planning for the coming weeks?
Well, the thing about me is I don't normally plan. I'm not a very good planner. So the day before or even on the day, I'll decide what I'm going to cook. But one thing's for sure, there's going to be plenty of cooking going on because I've just had a little reshuffle in the shack. I've got myself a lovely little outdoor kitchen area. So there's going to be lots coming up. But today, I've done a lovely pork leg joint with crackling. Let's have a look. Today, I'm going to be spinning this pork leg joint on the Joe rotisserie over fire, and I'm going to show you how to achieve perfect crackling every single time. So the Sunday roast, or whatever day you want to have it, you've got yourself a nice pork joint, you're looking forward to that lovely, juicy, crispy crackling. You nail the pork, the crackling comes off, and it's a bit substandard. I've been there many times before. It happens to the best of us. So I'm going to show you how I go about my foolproof crackling method every single time. So first things first, I've got myself a pork leg joint. Now the skin has already been scored. That's going to make it easier to carve through that and to carve through that crispy crackling. So all I've done with this pork leg joint, nothing special, is I've done what's called a dry brine. So what we do is we just take some kitchen roll, just dry it all over, and then we sprinkle it with salt, just as if you're seasoning it. Sprinkle it with salt, and then we put it on a wire rack in the fridge, uncovered, for 24 hours. And what will happen is that salt will initially start to draw out the moisture of the pork, counterintuitive you might say, but then over time, that moisture gets pulled back in with the salt, so it's locking in the flavour from the salt. It's making the skin nice and dry, and it's going to help us to achieve that ultimate crispy crackling. So that's that. That's been 24 hours in the dry brine, and this skin is nice and dry. So now we're going to put some flavour on it. I've got myself some flavours that pork absolutely loves here. We've got fennel seeds and black peppercorns that we're just going to crush down in our pestle and mortar. Then we've got a bit of paprika, a bit of thyme, a little bit of mustard powder, and a bit more salt, because who doesn't love salty, crispy crackling? So we're going to start with about a tablespoon of fennel seeds into a pestle and mortar. Peppercorns, we're going to go in with about a teaspoon, and then we're just going to bash these down until they're kind of coarse, and then we're going to add in our other seasonings. To that, we're going to go in with a couple of teaspoons of paprika, about a teaspoon of thyme, about half a teaspoon of mustard powder, and about a teaspoon of salt. And now what we're going to do is just take this rub and we're going to put it all over the skin, all through those incisions that have been made, and all over the meat. And that is it, that is us done. So I'm going to be cooking this on the Kamado Joe Big Joe using the Joe rotisserie. I've got the Kamado Joe fired up. We're running at about 210 degrees Celsius. I've just chucked a chunk of cherry wood in there for the smoke. So I'm going to feed this onto the spit, and then we're going to get it in there and spin it over some fire. This is going to go in the Kamado Joe Big Joe on the Joe rotisserie. Cherry wood for the smoke. This is going to cook until it hits 63 degrees internal temperature. Going to keep wiping it down with some kitchen towel. Once there's visible oil on there, keep it nice and dry. That's going to enable this lovely crispy skin. So I'll see you when this is done. I cannot wait. There we go, there's our pork leg joint with crackling. It's taken about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. I don't normally keep an eye on the time because I'm having a couple of beers, and we cooked to temperature. And as we've seen, I've cooked that to 63 degrees internal temperature. The Kamado Joe ran between 190 and 210 Celsius. It was about 210 to start, and then once we started getting the blistering on the skin, on the crackling that we wanted, I've dialed down the vents, taken it down to about 190 to finish off the cook. So let's slice in, have a little look. I'm salivating. This is going to be beautiful. So let's just go. You can hear that crackling. Get through there. Oh. And just have a look at that. Like I said, we cooked this at 63. Old school, you'd probably take this to 73 because that's just the way it was 10 years ago maybe. You take it to 73 and your pork's well done, it's tough, it's dry. You don't need to now. Modern day farming methods, especially if you get it from a good quality butcher. This is cooked to 63 degrees internal temperature. It's still blushing, it's still juicy. It's exactly how I want to eat my pork. So, hope you found this useful. The crackling, we've got to have a taste of the crackling, haven't we? So let's just take a bit of that off. Want a little bit more. Winner, winner. Crackling dinner. That's me done. Hope you found this useful. Happy days.
Amazing crackling, Elky. That pork joint looks so good.
Cheers, Neal. It really is a foolproof method and it's worked well for me every time. And you don't necessarily have to have a rotisserie. Just follow the method of the higher heat and then the lower heat and it'll work just as well.
It does look great. Now, this year, we're bringing back one of our most popular features from the Lockdown Barbecue Show, and that's What's Cooking, where we take a look at what you're up to and what you've posted on our Barbecue Shack TV Instagram page. Let's take a look. Elky, it's like the old days. Which was your favourite cook?
It is like the old days. One of our favourite features is back, and the pressure is now back on me to pick my favourite cook. I'm going to go with Twisted Ribs Barbecue with that lovely burger. It looks absolutely amazing. Now, if you want your pictures featured on the show, then keep adding your photos to Instagram using the hashtag Barbecue Shack TV, and we'll do our best to feature them on the show. Now, we've seen what everybody else has been cooking. Let's have a look at what you've been cooking, Neal.
February's been a bit of a strange month, but it does feel as if spring is on its way, but it certainly didn't a couple of weeks ago. The snow definitely didn't stop me from cooking outside. I loved it. And today I'm going to show you how to make a tasty sausage and bacon stew, which is a great alternative to bangers and mash.
For this recipe, you will need 12 good quality pork sausages and 6 smoked streaky bacon rashers. To start with, set your barbecue up for both direct and indirect grilling and brown your sausages. Once they are looking lovely, move them over to the indirect side and add the bacon. And cook until it's crispy. Remove the sausages and bacon and put to one side while you prepare the other ingredients for the stew. You'll need 3 peppers, deseeded and roughly chopped. The colours don't matter. I went for what I had in the fridge, so I used 2 red and 1 yellow. Roughly chop 2 sticks of celery and 1 large onion. Peel and chop 3 garlic cloves, deseed and finely slice 1 red chilli. Measure out 1 teaspoon of cayenne pepper and paprika, and if you like your stews very spicy, then add a little bit more of each. You'll also need 3 tablespoons of plain flour, 1 tablespoon of cider vinegar, 750 millilitres of chicken stock, a 400 gram tin of chopped tomatoes, long grain rice, thyme, and salt and pepper.
Now it's time to prep the barbecue, and I'm going to use my Classic Joe accessory rack to position the cooking pot directly over the heat.
Add olive oil to the pot and let it heat up. Next, add the onion, celery and peppers and cook until soft. This should take around about 10 minutes. Stir in your chilli, garlic and spices, followed by the thyme. Now you're ready for the flour, vinegar and chicken stock, and give it a good stir. After a minute or so, add the chopped tomatoes and season with pepper and salt. We're nearly there. Add the sausages and bacon and cook for a further 10 minutes and then it's ready to eat. Serve with long grain rice and sprinkle on some chopped parsley.
This sausage and bacon stew is delicious, and I think you'll absolutely love it.
Elky, that sausage and bacon stew is absolutely delicious. But also this month, I've discovered for the first time smash burgers. Now, I know I'm late to the party, but I think I'm absolutely hooked.
Where have you been? Smash burgers are my absolute favourite way to do burgers. In fact, I did a couple of burgers at the weekend, double smash burgers, all the trimmings, absolute winner.
Elky, those photographs look great. Now, would you like to introduce who our special guest for this show is?
Yeah, so this is a man who I've been following and been a fan of on Instagram for some time now. His dedication to cooking outdoors over fire is second to none. I'd say he's probably out there more than me cooking on his braai. It's Phil Cather in this house we braai.
Phil, welcome to the show. Now, you've got a massive interest in South African braai cookery. Where did the interest begin?
So it all kind of kicked off because of kind of what I've married into, I suppose, more than anything else, which sounds strange. But my wife is South African, and it all really started whenever I had my first trip out there, and really like this weird, like, people doing a barbecue all the time, and then found out that it's called a braai, and that it's this whole culture out there, and it's just this whole kind of means so much, I think, to like so many households, of a way of getting together, a way of spending time with friends, a way of socializing. And it was really like this really nice vibe that came with everything around fire. So it then kind of became a thing that once we got married, and I dragged her away from South Africa to the lovely climates of Northern Ireland, it's just, see, it's kicking off in the background now as well, we wanted to find a place, like our first place where we could do like a braai, and it just came from that. It came from really seeing what that culture is all about, and really kind of embracing it, and trying to impress my parents-in-law is kind of the big thing with it as well.
And have you impressed them?
Do you know what? So I've done pretty well with it. We've had trips out there where on nights where my mother-in-law has asked that I do the braai instead of my father-in-law. That's big.
It sounds like you're doing great. Now, you touched on it briefly. What braai means, it's about the people, it's about the vibe, about the gathering. How would you say that a braai would differ from a British barbecue, UK barbecue?
I think a braai is different in its essence, and it sounds so poncy to say it, but I think sometimes in barbecue, that it's often about get to that stage with the meat, and get to that stage where in barbecue you really enjoy the cook part of it, doing whatever it is in barbecue, but your slow cook ribs, or even just like your smash burgers or something like that. It's really enjoyable doing that bit of it. Whereas with a braai, I think it's the step before it and the step after it that makes a difference. Whenever it comes to a braai, it's about choosing the right wood. Like it's not just like sticking charcoal into a chimney and leaving it there. You build your fire, and you take time in kind of positioning your wood so that it's right, so that you get the right airflow with it. Then kind of just sitting by it, enjoying the fire, enjoying how the wood burns before putting anything anywhere near it. And then it's that bit afterwards as well. So once you've done your food and you're kicking back, that you just throw some more wood on what's left, and you just sit back and just enjoy the company with everything. And I think that's the difference with it. I think with barbecue, you've got all the crack and you've got all the social experience with it, but it's the social experience around that bit where you do the meat. Whereas with the braai, it's kind of that bigger picture with it. And let's be honest about it. I think like the kind of my disclaimer with all of this is that clearly I'm not South African, and I cling on to my wife's culture by the skin of my teeth when it comes to doing this. I think that's the other thing about the difference between a braai and a barbecue is everybody has their own way to braai. Everybody's got their own unique way of doing it. And the way that I do it is the way that my father-in-law showed me how to do it. But I've adapted it, and it's become unique to me. You go to somebody else's house for braai, like when you use your setup and things like that, probably the way you do it is going to be different to how I do it. But it's then about kind of looking at what you do and embracing that and enjoying that. And it's about enjoying what other people do. It's not competitive or anything like that. That for me, that's probably how I feel. That's a really long answer for such a simple question, isn't it?
It's a good answer, and I like the whole thought and the whole vibe and everything. And we had Matthew Hoggard on the show, a little while back on the Lockdown Barbecue show, and he said they used to have cooking wood and drinking wood, and he said they use the drinking wood when they're just standing around having a few beers. They use the cheap wood, the crap wood, chuck it on, and when the wives come over and the girlfriends come over, and they say, "Oh, is it nearly ready?" "No, not quite ready yet. Not quite ready yet. We've still got to burn it down." And they use the cheap wood for that, just so they can squeeze in a few drinks. So that sounds like a great vibe to me.
Perfect. Absolutely, I like that. The number of times, "Are you finished yet?" "I haven't even started yet."
It's a great answer. Now, how would you say you've kind of developed your techniques since normal barbecue to then learning to braai? I mean, have you got any favourite techniques and favourite things to cook? I know you cook. Is it boerewors? Is that how you say it?
Well done, mate. Well done. I've heard it pronounced so many different ways, and so many different spellings of it. In fact, like even earlier on tonight, I said something about some of the wood that's arrived today. And my wife just laughed at how I pronounced it, and I swore I was saying it right. So, favorite thing to do is probably boerewors, because it's almost become symbolic actually in this house. Boerewors is just that one thing that we all flipping devour, and packets of the stuff like. I can't begin to describe. I think there's probably a fair chance that I'm going to turn into a boerewors one day, just at the rate that it's eaten. So I do really enjoy that, and it's simple as well. It's quite a quick one, but technique-wise, and I think kind of what differs. I genuinely think I'd be terrible on a barbecue. I don't think I would know what to do on a barbecue. I've used, like, there was a long stage where I used charcoal and stuff like that, but I look at, like the kettle barbecues or your KJs and stuff like that, and I genuinely, I don't think I would know what to do with stuff like that. It looks too complicated. Just the fact that it's got a dial on it for heat temperature and stuff just frightens the life out of me. It does. It's the simplicity of it, and that's probably the technique. So it is that simple technique. It's you build your grid, you build your wood nicely, you kind of sit with it, watch what it's going to do. So it's taking a tumble. Okay, we don't panic, we just rebuild. We let it come down to that nice ember, and then grid on, let the grid warm up, and kind of let everything else do its thing. But you rely on what that wood is doing, and you let that wood tell you what to do from it. So I have been asked like heat control and stuff like that, and the only technique that I've got, which I I'm copywriting before anybody does anything else with this, is, and I've spoken about it a few times, so this kind of like palm of the hand over the heat, and that kind of gives you an indication, not like right in it, I'm not an idiot, but it gives you an indication as to kind of how hot your heat source is. So it's like if you hold your hand kind of at the grid level that you're working with, if you can hold it there for less than 3 seconds, it's a really high heat. If it's 3 to 5 seconds, then it's kind of high medium heat. 5 to 8 seconds, medium low, and 8 seconds plus is a low heat, and you can kind of do your slow cooks and things like that. That works quite well. Yeah, I think that's probably as a technique. I mean, you know, the setup has changed a little bit over the last couple of months. Before that, it was bricks and a cast iron grid, because again, it's that simplicity with it, and I've tried to kind of hold on to the simplicity as well with things, you know.
You do it well, and I love the method of holding the hand over the heat. It works a treat.
Don't do it though. Disclaimer: it's that whole "don't try this at home" type thing.
Now, Phil, recently you posted a brilliant video on Instagram all about pork belly. Can you tell us
Yes.
what technique you used?
That was, I think, like Elky just like asked about kind of favorite things to do, and the Boerewors is like the regular thing to do. That pork belly one was so much fun. So the method with it was all about the fire. So it was the fire over at the far side of the braai, with a little tripod, almost like a tripod you'd use for your flat bottom Dutch oven, or maybe to rest a poikie on or something like that, with that turned sideways, and then using a kind of a foldable grid that I would do for the braai broikies or toasted sandwiches, with the pork belly in there. And it just sat by the edge of the fire for about 4.5 hours. And every 20 minutes, I would just turn it over and turn it over. So it was never, not at one point was it over on top of the heat source. It was always sitting by the side of the heat source. But coming from the side, you got this really lovely slow cook with it. And it was genuinely, I think it's probably one of the most favorite braais that I've done. And again, I had a message from my mother-in-law the night that I posted that said, when we come out to South Africa, that's the first thing that I'm making whenever we go out there. So it obviously worked quite well as well. But it was, yeah, so it's a method that's called, and she'll kill me if I pronounce it wrong, standrippiki. Standrippiki, anything that ends in ki in Afrikaans is like tiny or small. It literally kind of translates as small cooking stand, which is just a lovely word for a small cooking stand. But yeah, it's such a fantastic, lovely way of cooking.
I'm gonna have to recreate it over the next week or two, definitely, mate, because it looked absolutely immense. Now, your braai, you said that before you had the braai that you've got behind you, it was just the bricks, wasn't it? So talk us through the kind of evolution of your braai.
The evolution, like from the very beginning, it was a £20 barbecue from Tesco's, which served us for about 5 years. And that was when we lived in Northern Ireland. And when we came over to England, when we bought this house, the first thing that we had to do was build a braai area with the house. And so before, and this was a student digs, so before anything got done inside, I had the builders here kind of giving me quotes for building a braai area. And it was, so the structure of it has stayed the same, and that's kind of been quite important to kind of maintain the brickwork and things like that. But it was kind of, I would use maybe 3 bricks, and I used to kind of talk a lot when I was doing braai and stuff like that. I would talk about something being 3 bricks high or 2 bricks high, because that was the only way I had of controlling any of the heat with it, was those bricks. So it was bricks and like a recycled grill. Then kind of I took a step up and got a custom made like cast iron grill for it, which was a bit bigger. And because it's cast iron, it's lovely and sturdy and all of the things that go with cast iron. And that did me for so many years. And then recently, the guys from the Braai Man got in touch about this. And it's honestly, it's ridiculous how much fun, you know, it is. It's so like, yeah, I can't tell you how much I love it.
I know how much you love it, because I know how much I love mine, mate. So yeah, you can't beat it.
Do you know what's really nice about it is that I think it's still really versatile, and that's been the thing that's impressed me with it. Is that you've got so many options with it. You can have that long, you've got the long grill that goes the whole way across it, or you can have the two small ones with the ember maker in the middle, or I can put my cast iron one in there. There's so many different things I think that you can do with it. But yeah, it just works really nicely. And then like trying it with both of the doors closed and using it like an oven and things like that. It's really cool kind of what you can do with it. And I think that's probably over the last few months what has kind of encouraged me to try and do things a little bit differently and try and do probably not for a stage. I think all I was kind of posting about or whatever was burgers and chicken and things like that. I think it's kind of pushed me a little bit more to do some different stuff because it's just a lot of fun standing out here now.
Absolutely.
It looks absolutely brilliant, Phil. Now, I've got to ask one question. In the UK climate, what do you prefer working with, British wood or South African wood?
Oh, no. So for a very long time, I used British wood, and that was really interesting because British wood does a lot of very different things as well. So it was a long stage where I would use a mixture of birch, ash, hazelwood, and learning what all of those different woods do is really interesting. You've got your wood that's very good for just making a bed of embers that you can then build fires on. You've got wood that is I keep saying if I got wood, it sounds so innuendo riddled. It really does. You've got British wood that's fantastic for like long cooks and stuff like that. The South African wood is special to me because, and it's probably, again, it's special with my wife because if I'm doing a particular type of wood, she'll come outside in the dead of winter in the cold and she'll say that smells like home. And that smells like such and such that my dad would do. And that's I think the difference. I think that's where it's really special for me. That it's just got that connection. So South African wood is better.
To be honest, I've got to agree with. I mean, when I use my Braai, I use South African Braai wood. I use Seckel Boss. I use. I'm going to try and say it now. Kamado Joe. Close.
Well done.
But yeah, I've got to say that they just can't be beaten in terms of the embers they create and the heat they create and stuff. So
it's fierce.
I'm all for that, mate. I'm all for that.
Now, Phil, we also know that you love creating desserts on the Braai, and you create a Malfou pudding. What is it?
Yes. Oh, flip. So Malfou pudding is a traditional South African dessert, and it's the most sugary, diabetic coma-induced dessert that I think you could possibly have. It is pretty much, in its simplest terms, it's a vanilla sponge with vanilla, sugar, buttery sauce that you pour into it. But it's a really nice one to do. It's nice for a number of reasons. And again, kind of like you guys know from the barbecue world that nobody expects you to ever do a dessert on a barbecue. It's just it's a weird one that everybody's a bit kind of intrigued by. And that's quite nice then again on the Braai. It's one that always surprises people. But it's nice you do it in the cast iron skillet. Ideally, covered a little bit with foil or a lid if you can, and it's pretty much just a sponge cake, but it is pure sugar. Like it's mental.
Have you got any Braai cooking aspirations? Because I've heard on the grapevine that you would love to audition for the South African TV show, The Ultimate Braai Masters.
Yes, I have. Yes, I would like to. That is my ultimate goal. So the ultimate Braai Master is like the most insane version of MasterChef that you could ever imagine. And I've been sort of social media is a funny place because it's filled with so many interesting people, and you connect with so many interesting people on it. I've been lucky enough to kind of speak to a few people that have been on the show. And I've sort of said to them that, surely they don't make you do that and things. And it turns out that you do genuinely trek through some, bits of the Kruger National Park barefoot with lions and wildebeest all around you, not knowing what way to turn up at a campsite 6 hours later in 42-degree heat and then have to braai a spit lamb or something like that. It just sounds mad. And I think kind of it would be quite funny to have some random guy turn up with a pint. I'd properly paddy it up. Like I'd be a guy with a pint of Guinness and a ginger beard and an Ireland rugby top, you know, just rocking up saying, hello there, I'm here to Braai, you know. I think it'd be nuts. Yeah, that is my ultimate aspiration is just to audition for the show, even not to get on it, just to audition for it.
We have to make it happen. We have to make it happen.
Yes, please.
Let's make, before we can make it happen, could you do an audition for the Barbecue Shack TV channel and actually make a video for us?
Absolutely, yes. Let's get on that. Let's me. Do you want to fly me out to the Kruger National Park and make me walk for 6 hours?
We'll check the budget and get back.
Check the budget. Yeah. But other than that, of course I will, guys. I like you. You're fine.
Brilliant.
Phil, thank you for being a brilliant guest on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. You're an absolute legend, mate.
Cheers. Thanks.
Elky, Phil's a real outdoor cooking inspiration.
Oh, he is. You can't fault his dedication to cooking over fire. And he's an all-round fantastic guy as well. Now, guys, you may remember back in November, we ran a competition where you could win a Kamado Joe Jr. Now, the winner of that competition was a guy called Charlie Welling. And here he is with his prize. And it looks like he's been cooking up a bit of a storm as well.
Charlie's cooks look amazing, Elky. Now, if you would like to see more of our videos, you can catch them out on our Barbecue Shack TV YouTube channel. We're adding new content all the time. Now, that's about it for this month's show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Stay safe in what remains of lockdown. And a big thank you to our programme sponsors, Kamado Joe.
Yeah, and a huge thanks from me, guys. Keep those fires burning. And we'll see you next time.